I'd like to call a public hearing on the fiscal year 2019-2020 proposed budget to order. Roll call, please, Andy.
Garner.
Here.
Balmas.
Present.
Hood.
Here.
Thorstensen.
Here.
Jacobs. Ross. Here. 5 present.
All right, this is, again, a public hearing. Patrick and Brian will give us updated information, and then I'll open the floor to public comment.
Sure. So you got a memo in your packet from our finance director, Brian Gosnell, as well as an updated line item budget. He's got a quick PowerPoint we're going to run through. Didn't change anything on the revenue side. On the expense side, we tweaked the general fund, water and sewer operating fund, and then the 911 fund we had talked about. That needed to be zeroed out since that's just a pass-through. So Brian made those changes. He's going to run through them here tonight. It's still a balanced budget, still a little bit of a surplus. So we're in good shape, not too many changes. So I'll let Brian run through the PowerPoint.
All right, thank you, Pat. Everybody's seen this chart before. Just goes through the process. Our financial planning and reporting process starts with 2 long-term plans, multi-year forecast, multi-year capital plan. That leads into the annual budget, followed by quarterly status reports, and then at the end of the year, we have the comprehensive annual financial report, or also known as the audit. Timeline for budget prep. We did the 2 long-term plans on December 17th. Had the first workshop March 4th. Noticed the public hearing in the paper on March 13th. That brings us to tonight, and then the start of the fiscal year on May 1st. As Pat mentioned earlier, changes since the workshop. The general fund expenditures went up $52,209. That's made up of some salary adjustments for some finalized contract information came in. Salaries and wages went up $9,374. The MICA, which is our workers' comp liability insurance, went down $23,770. Small adjustment for some codification services after reviewing that contract. That went up $1,605. And then snow and ice control, as we talked about, went up $65,000. That makes up the increase in the general fund. In the water and sewer fund, expenditures actually went down $132,690. And that's made up of the MICA adjustment for $4,690, and then the final CLC JAWA rate, which came in under what we had assumed. They kept it flat, and we had assumed a 10-cent increase, saved us $128,000. Also, in the proposed budget, we had this year we rolled up all those individual amusement tax line items into one, but the historical one stayed individual. We were able to roll up with the new software. We were able to roll up historical into that too, so we didn't have that variance in the budget. We could compare apples to apples when it comes to amusement tax. So that is corrected in there. And then, as Pat mentioned, we zeroed out the 911 fund because it's a pass-through. Budget themes this year. Really, everything we did kind of set us up for something in the future, starting with the surplus transfers that we'll have on the next meeting. $1.3 million included in the year-end budget to the capital fund, $200 to the water and sewer fund. That sets us up for next year's capital plan, which includes intersection improvements at Grand and Hunt Club, and then the Knowles Road Tower. Obviously, that's the big one in the water and sewer side. Public safety. Budget includes 6 new firefighters, partially grant funded. That sets us up for potentially a future Fire Station 3. There's money included in the budget for design and for that. We also added a communications operator as kind of a third year follow-up to the consolidation with Zion, and then added some EMD technology that replaces some kind of card system that they're using now. So improve efficiency in the communication center. On the fiscal sustainability side, pensions are fully funded at the conservative policy level in the budget. We were able to preserve the general fund balance, continue to make enhancements to protect our tax base at East Grand, and then participate in economic development, not only with the big 3, but have some money available should something come about that we want to take advantage of. Factors affecting the budget. As we mentioned at the last quarterly update, sales tax is strong through the third quarter, up 5% versus budget, 3% versus last year. Use tax, obviously bolstered by the Supreme Court decision, is up in this budget. Amusement and hotel tax adjustments that allowed us to have that economic development reserve in place in case we wanted to take advantage of something. The Great Wolf rebate, obviously we talked about this a lot during the workshop. In the budget document, we had in fiscal year 19, budgeted for the maximum exposure on the revenue and the expenditure side. So we see that adjustment take place in the fiscal year 20 budget with some history now. Also included in the fiscal year 20 is that SAFER grant for the 6 firefighters. And then the majority of the IEPA loan completion for the Knowles Road Tower, and then the debt service will actually start in fiscal year 21. Outcomes, 19th year no property tax. We're able to participate in economic development, protecting our tax base, continuing long-term capital plan, all that in alignment with our strategic plan, maintain non-public safety personnel levels, and preserve that general fund balance. So some pretty important stuff that we were able to accomplish with this budget. Getting into the numbers just a little bit here. On an all funds basis, revenues are just over 77 million, expenditures just under 73 million. Small budgeted surplus in the general fund, you can see that came down from the workshop number, just almost 18,800 surplus. And then planned drawdowns for capital in motor fuel tax, the impact fee fund, and then spending that $1.3 million transfer in the capital improvement fund. Water and sewer, if you remember during the workshop, that number was about 620,000, so that came down to 500,000. Consistent with our long-term plan for funding capital in the water and sewer fund until we get some rate relief from JAWA. Dialing in on revenues here, 77 million up 364, about 0.5%. We break those down into 8 categories. Starting with major revenues, comprises about 45.7% of all revenues. That's primarily general fund taxes. I got a slide on that in a minute. Next, charges for service makes up almost 21%. It's primarily water and sewer charges and contracts with Warren Waukegan Fire and dispatch contracts. Investments and contributions is the 3rd largest category at 16.3%. This is where we see the village's pension contributions and investment income in both the police and the fire pension fund. Other sources, 8.2%. This includes reimbursements from the IEPA loan and internal transfers. And then intergovernmental revenue is 3.2%. Here's where we see the SAFER grant proceeds this year. And then fines and forfeitures and taxes and license and permits make up the remainder. This is the major revenues category I was talking about. This is the ones we pay the most attention to. Sales tax, home rule sales tax, obviously the biggest ones there. Amusement tax, state income tax, hotel tax, food and beverage tax, local use tax, telecommunications, and general building permits there. All of these are in the general fund with the exception of 50% of the home rule sales tax. On the expenditure side, total 73 million, that's up 2.8, or about 4%. We break that down into 9 different categories. Salaries and wages, 38.3% of that. That covers salaries, pensions, overtime. Benefits, 16.5%. That includes medical insurance, the village's pension contributions, workers' comp insurance, and Social Security, Medicare payroll expenses. Capital totals 15.7%. Here's where we have the Knowles Road Tower and the items outlined in the capital plan. Contractual services, 14.5%. Here's where we have the street resurfacing program and the purchase of water from CLC JAWA. Other financing uses, 5.9%. Here's where we have internal transfers and the rebate agreements. And then supplies at 2.6%. Things like fuel, meter exchange program, salt, professional technical services, 2.6%. In that category, we have things like the red light camera fees and financial and legal services. Other contractual and debt service make up the remainder at 2.2 and 1.7% respectively there. Looking at personnel changes, village-wide personnel is up 7.9 FTEs. That's comprised of 220 total full-time FTEs and 11.52 part-time FTEs make up the total of 231.52. In administration, up 0.55 FTEs. We added an intern and reallocated the assistant village administrator position from streets to admin. Community development down 0.2. We had an allocation change here from the assistant public works director / village engineer position to utility, and then added a building intern. Police, you can see here the addition of the communications operator. We also increased the part-time communications operator just slightly. Fire department, you can see the addition of the 6 firefighters there that are partially offset by a grant. And Public Works was just allocation changes with the assistant village administrator position, assistant to the village administrator position, excuse me, and the assistant public works director, village engineer position there. Village's debt position, we have one outstanding general obligation bond, that's Series 2011, that expires in December of calendar year 2022, fiscal year 23. We also have 2 years left on the SSA number 2 bonds, and then included in the fiscal year 20 budget is the last payment for the village's participation in the aquatic center. Looking at anticipated fund balances at the end of next year, general fund is up just slightly, 26.4 million, or 62% of budgeted expenditures. You can see that is favorable with our fund balance policy of 35%. Capital Improvement Fund ends the year with 722,000. That's when we wanted to try to get back up to $1 million and keep around $1 million. Work on getting there over the next couple of years. And then the Water and Sewer Fund, 4.7 million, or 59% of operating expenditures. Obviously, that's very strong for an enterprise fund, which is why we felt comfortable drawing on that for capital purposes here in the short term. Looking more specifically at the general fund balance over the last 10 years, really here you can just see, just wanted to show a long-term trend that we've been able to add to this slightly, while we have used significant amounts of surplus in the general fund to fund capital. So we've been able to do a couple different things here. And all that's because of conservative budgeting, being conservative in our estimates, and the way we operate. So getting into the capital plan, fiscal year 20 capital plan totals almost 15 million. We're at 14.9. It comes out of 3 different funds: the Capital Improvement Fund, the Water and Sewer Capital Fund, and the Motor Fuel Tax Fund. And we break that down into 5 different systems. Obviously, water and sewer system is the largest this year at almost 6.6 million, or 44%. That includes the Knowles Road Tower. That's why that typically comes in number 2 behind transportation system. Transportation comes in at just over 5 million, about 34%, followed by vehicles and equipment at 1.8, or 12%, and then buildings and building improvements at 1.2 million, and stormwater management at 300,000. So that rounds out our capital plan for the fiscal year 20, obviously very detailed in the capital section of the budget document there. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. The draft budget has been online for some time. We'll have the final one up here fairly quickly. I'm almost done with the document, so it won't be long before we can get that one up on the website.
Yeah, excellent job, Brian, Pat, all the department heads. Certainly, I know you put a lot of effort into this, and it pays off when we see how stable it's been with our reserves and capital spending and that. So, very much appreciate it. Trustees, very important part of our job. Sets it for the year. Questions?
Move to approve.
Oh, I got to do public comment. Oh, so hold your
Okay.
motion. I'm going to open the floor for public comment only on the proposed budget. I'll have Brian, our village attorney, issue an oath. If you think you're going to give comment, please raise your hand. No public comment on the proposed budget? All right. So I have a motion from Trustee Ross. This is a recommendation to forward to the official board meeting. Motion by Trustee Ross.
Second.
Second by Trustee Garner. Roll call, please.
Garner.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood.
Yes.
Thorstensen.
Yes.
Ross.
Aye.
5 aye.
All right. Motion carries to forward a favorable recommendation for our regular board meeting, which will begin in 6 minutes. So do I have a motion to adjourn our public hearing?
So move.
Motion by Trustee Garner. Second by Trustee Thorstensen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'd like to call the Gurnee Village Board regular meeting of April 1st, 2019 to order. Roll call, please, Andy.
Garner.
Here.
Balmas.
Present.
Hood.
Here.
Thorstensen.
Here.
Jacobs. Ross.
Here.
5 present.
All right, and Trustee Jacobs is out of town. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America All right. Good evening. First up is approval of our consent agenda as presented. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by trustee Balmas, second by trustee Ross. Roll call, please. Andy?
Garner.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood.
Yes.
Thorstenson.
Yes.
Ross.
Aye.
5 aye.
All right, motion carries. Patrick, please read the consent agenda into the record.
Item number 1, approval of the minutes from the March 18, 2019 Village Board meeting. Item number 2, approval of ordinance 2019-19, authorizing the execution of a letter of intent between the Village of Gurnee and Vogue Tower Partners LLC with respect to the asset purchase of 2 village cell towers. Item number 3, approval of granting a Class 9 liquor license to the Warren Newport Public Library for its Bingo in the Book fundraising event to be held on April 26, 2019. Item number 4, approval of Police Department request to allow Officer Tom Woodruff to attend the Mid-South Institute of Combat Shooting in Lake Cormorant, Mississippi, from May 13th through 17th, 2019, at a cost not to exceed $1,600. Item number 5, approval request to solicit bids for a citizen management relationship / public records management or public records request management software solution. Item number 6, approval of ordinance 2019-20, amending Chapter 78, Section 78-68, subsection G of the Gurnee Municipal Code by creating certain fire lane designations in the Village of Gurnee. Item number 7, approval of payroll for period ending March 15, 2019, in the amount of $807,220.18. Item number 8, approval of bills for the period ending April 1st, 2019, in the amount of $740,582.25.
Thank you, Patrick. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read into the record? Motion by trustee Balmas, second by trustee Thorstenson. Roll call, please, Andy.
Garner.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood.
Yes.
Thorstenson.
Yes.
Ross.
Aye.
5 aye.
All right, we'll move on to petitions and communications. The first item we're going to move and wait just a little bit, see if our guests are able to make it here. So I will move on to item number 2. All right, item number 2 is approval of a proclamation designating April 14th through 20th, 2019 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And public safety dispatchers are the first contact our residents have with emergency services and provide steady guidance and support in a caller's most frantic and panicked moments. And public safety dispatchers are more than a calm and reassuring voice at the other end of the phone. They are the unseen first responders. They are knowledgeable and highly trained individuals who work closely with other police, fire, and medical personnel. And public safety dispatchers of the Gurnee Police Department have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatments of patients, and each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, dedication, and professionalism during the performance of their job. And public safety dispatchers serve the public in countless ways, often without recognition by the beneficiaries of their services. Now therefore I, Christina Kovarik, Mayor of the Village of Gurnee, do hereby proclaim the week of April 14th through April 20th, 2019 to be National Public Safety Telecommuters Week in the Village of Gurnee in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our village and our residents, businesses, and visitors safe. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Motion by trustee Thorstenson.
Second.
Second by trustee Balmas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Item number 3 is approval of a proclamation designating April as 911 Public Education Month. 911 is nationally recognized as the number to call in an emergency to receive immediate help from police, fire, emergency medical services, or other appropriate emergency response entities. And 911 was designated by Congress as the National Emergency Call Number under the Wireless Communication and Public Safety Act of 1999, Public Law 106-81, and the Enhanced 911 Act of 2004, Public Law 108-494, established Enhanced 911 as a high national priority as part of our nation's homeland security and public safety. And people of all ages use 911, and it is critical to educate the public for all ages on the proper use of 911. And thousands of 911 calls are made every year by children who were properly trained on the use of 911, resulting in lives saved, which underscores the critical importance of training children early in life about 911. And there is widespread misuse of the 911 system, including prank and non-emergency calls, which can result in costly and inefficient use of 911 and emergency response resources, and a need to reduce this practice. And the growth and variety of means of communications, including mobile and internet protocol-based systems, impose challenges for accessing 911 and implementing enhanced 911, and require increased education and awareness about their capabilities. Now therefore, I, Christina Kovarik, Mayor of Gurnee, do hereby proclaim April 2019 as 911 Education Month. I call upon all citizens and organizations in Gurnee to observe such month with appropriate ceremonies, training events, and activities. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Garner.
Second.
Second by Trustee Ross. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's 911 Public Education Month. Item number 4, approval of a proclamation designating April as Child Abuse Prevention Month and recognizing the Blue Kids Lake County Project. Our society has a responsibility to protect our children and help them thrive in a safe and nurturing environment. And every child is entitled to be loved, cared for, feel secure, and be free from verbal, sexual, emotional, and physical abuse and neglect. And the Village of Gurnee has dedicated individuals and organizations who work daily to counter the problem of child maltreatment and help parents obtain the assistance they need. Our communities are stronger when all citizens become aware of child abuse prevention and become involved in supporting parents to raise their children in a safe environment. And effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among families, social service agencies, schools, religious and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Now therefore I, Christina Kovarik, Mayor of Gurnee, do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Child Abuse Prevention Month. I call upon all citizens and I encourage them to join in dedicating their energies to cherishing our children and helping them grow and develop free from physical, emotional, and sexual harm. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Ross, second by Trustee Garner. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's Child Abuse Prevention Month. That is the end of our petitions and communications. So we'll hold that last item until a little later on the agenda. Any reports?
Not tonight.
All right, old business?
No.
All right, we'll move on to new business. First item is approval of ordinance 2019-21, approving the annual budget of the Village of Gurnee, County of Lake, State of Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2019, and ending April 30th, 2020. So this is based on the recommendation we just forwarded to ourselves from the public hearing. Last chance to change something in the budget. Any questions from the trustees?
Make a motion.
All right, I have a motion from
Second.
trustee Garner, second from trustee Ross. Roll call, please.
Garner.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood. Yes. Thorstenson.
Yes.
Ross.
Aye.
5-0.
All right, motion carries. We have a balanced budget. All right, item number 2, approval of ordinance 2019-22, approving the fiduciary agreement between the Lake County Metropolitan Enforcement Group, commonly known as MEG, and the Village of Gurnee. Patrick?
Sure. You had a memo on this from our finance director, Brian Gosnell, and our interim police chief, Brian Smith. As you know, on occasion, the Village of Gurnee receives forfeited funds, and these funds are restricted in how they can be used, and we place them in the police department restricted revenue fund. This program is administered by the U.S. Attorney General and the Secretary of the Treasury. For groups such as MEG, some of the requirements has changed, and they can no longer go directly to MEG. They need to either go to a member of that law enforcement group, or they need to have a fiduciary agency to hold those funds. So we are a long-standing member of MEG. They reached out to us late last year to see if we would be interested in being that fiduciary. I spoke with the finance director and told both Brians, that if it's not going to be a big strain on us, we'd be willing to help out. They've been working over the past couple months to develop a memorandum of understanding that would outline each group's responsibilities. It's been included in your packet. It's pretty straightforward. It's a page and a half long. Brian Gosnell doesn't expect this to have too much of an impact on his staff. They usually have less than 10 transactions a year, but there is language included in there that if it becomes more intense as far as the time we're putting into it, we have an option of levying a fee that we would negotiate with the group. So we have the resources to help them out, and like I said, we've been a longstanding member, so we offered our assistance. I know there's a representative to here tonight. If there's any further questions, detailed questions from the village board, either he or Brian Smith or Brian Gosnell can address those.
Questions from the trustees? I have one. Was this based on federal rulemaking that they're not allowing MEG to take the funds, and it has to be somebody, a fiduciary?
Sure, go for it.
Okay.
Been like this all my life. Chris Sullivan, Director for Lake County MEG. Can you repeat your question, please?
Was this based on a federal rulemaking change that MEG no longer takes possession of the funds, that it has to pass through a fiduciary agent?
So this was not a law change. This was a memorandum change that came from the Attorney General.
Came from who?
From the Attorney General, U.S. Attorney General, that changed how MEGs and task forces, or as they rule it, task forces in general, can take money in as far as federal asset forfeiture, seized funds. The rest of police departments are not affected by this, just task forces, which, as you stated previously, we were able to take those funds directly once the courts awarded them to us. Under this new rule, we have to utilize a fiduciary. At the end of the day, it's a trust issue. There's a couple bad apples in the barrel that caused some problems, so they made a rule change so that the rest of us have to abide by it.
Because we just end up passing it back to you.
What occurs is we would assume a special account will be set up for us. We would go through an approval process, and once there's an approval made, then if it's an equipment purchase, it would be purchased by Gurnee Police, but we would utilize that equipment, so it would be a piece of equipment that is on their inventory, but we would utilize it. If it's commodities, if it's something, for instance, if it's rent or things of that nature, which we don't foresee in this case, that would be something that they could pay, that you could pay directly for. But what we're looking for is special needs equipment at the end of the day. Those may be vehicles, that could be special equipment such as surveillance equipment, cameras, protective equipment, things of that nature. But that is all governed under federal asset forfeiture for what we can purchase. So there are guidelines that are very strict on what we can still utilize this money for.
So does that, my question is for Brian, does that change our arrangement with MEG if we're actually going to be the owner of the asset, even though it's used by somebody else?
Well, the agreement, we're just holding it for them. So the agreement spells that out.
But what if if they submit a receipt for us to purchase a vehicle or a special piece of equipment, it's in our name, but Meg is using it. Did I just understand you correctly?
So, for instance, for vehicles, as long as that vehicle complies with the guidelines set forth by asset forfeiture, then if there is a purchase made, that vehicle, we would maintain that vehicle, we insure that vehicle, we would fuel that vehicle, everything. So it
So
would.
title would be in your name.
So titling, without having it in front of me, I'd have to look at that, but I believe titling might be in your name.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes. At the end of the day, what we're looking for is not so much the cars. That is a possibility, but it's special equipment. There are things that we utilize on a daily basis in law enforcement, especially in this field, that are expensive. And I can give you, for instance, if you'd like a couple of them.
No, and my concern is that if an asset belongs to us.
Correct.
And somebody else is using it, does that create some special liability or recourse?
Well, we can, there's no immediate plans to purchase a vehicle, correct?
No, sir. No
So
immediate
we
plans for the
would have
purchase.
to look into that. That was not something that was specifically discussed when I talked to Brian Gosnell. Obviously, the village would have some concerns about that if it's in terms of our own liability insurance, because that has its own insurable risks that we'd have to take into consideration.
Yeah, I'm honored that we can help Meg, because you do very important work, and I know this equipment's needed. But when it just struck me that if we're handling money, and then we own the asset, that it could create some obligations on our part. So I just want to make sure our village attorney looks at that in the future when you start submitting receipts and we're going to have assets in our name.
Sure, most definitely. And our intent, I believe, is once we get through this portion, if successful, then to sit down afterwards to take a look at federal asset forfeiture, the guidelines, what that allows us to do, and then obviously look at those considerations that the board has to make sure that everybody's comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And two, that we have other funding sources. So if we have issues on one thing that's allowed by asset forfeiture, that maybe there's an issue on your part, we have other funding sources that we can utilize to make those purchases.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yes, and I want you to get whatever you need.
Appreciate
I thought
it.
it was a pass-through, and it's not quite a pass-through, so I think we just need to be cognizant
Yeah,
going forward.
Vehicles would be a great concern for the
Sure,
village.
most definitely. Yep, at the end of the day, we want everybody to be comfortable, and we want to be able to be efficient and successful.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion to?
Can I just ask-
Oh, Trustee Balmas?
Before you guys, do you have a review board then when you submit to us then that it's, like, do you have a board for Meg of all the villages that are on it so that they all agree that's how that should be expensed or whatever? Is that how that?
Yes, ma'am. So Lake County Metropolitan Enforcement Group is governed by a policy board. That policy board is made up of the chiefs of the member agencies. For instance, Chief Smith is on that board. So we meet regularly, and any large purchases any purchases that we would make from this is obviously would require approval. But in general, any large purchases, as with most agencies, when they hit a certain level, do require approval.
Okay, I just want to know that there's a follow-through.
Checks
so
and
that it
balances.
doesn't come back to
Yep.
us to say, oh, you okayed that when we didn't.
Correct.
Okay,
All right.
Thank
Do I- Motion to approve?
so moved.
Motion by Trustee Balmas, second by Trustee Garner. Roll call, please, Andy.
Garner. Aye. Balmas.
Aye.
Hood. Yes. Thorstenson.
Yes.
Ross.
Aye.
5 aye.
Motion carries. Item number 3, approval of ordinance 2019-23, approving request to waive formal bid process and award the Cemetery Road Reservoir Maintenance Contract to Utility Service Company, Inc. Patrick?
Sure. I had a memo from our utility supervisor, Brett Fritzler, on this. If you remember, at the October 29th board meeting, we had a report from Bill Murphy with Suez, formerly known as Utility Service Corp., on the results of their assessment of our Cemetery Road Reservoir. As a reminder, it's a 3 million gallon ground reservoir that was constructed in 1992 and is our largest water storage facility. It's a concrete tank. We've had regular dive inspections done since it was constructed, but have never drained the tank completely for a full maintenance program. They took a look at it, assessed its condition. It's in need of some work. after all these years. So they provided us a proposal similar to our water towers. The way the maintenance contracts work with Suez is they're front-loaded, so the first 3 years you pay a higher dollar amount, then in the fourth year that dollar amount drops down and remains steady with a slight escalator going forward. We've staggered the water towers, so we've been bringing new towers on every 4 years, so we'll let a tower go the first 3 years at the higher dollar amount, and then when that tower drops down, we brought on another water tower. Currently, all of our water towers are under the program. That's what has allowed us to recoat the towers recently and conduct other maintenance improvements to those. So this would be the last existing facility that we're looking to bring on the program. Obviously, the Nose Rolled Water Tower, 20 years down the line, 15 years down the line, looking to be bringing that on a program. But this contract, the first 3 years, years 1 through 3, is $307,874. Year 4 and beyond, that drops down to about $53,000 a year with a maximum adjustment of 5%. So as I said, we talked about this back in October. The village board seemed receptive to the idea, so it is included in the budget, which was just approved.
Questions, trustee Thorstensen?
I didn't see, like, is there a total life expectancy of the unit?
Once they start maintaining it,
Okay.
But you don't anticipate ever having to replace that, as long as we maintain it?
Okay.
yeah, and I believe they were looking at September if the contract's approved as far as draining the reservoir and performing the maintenance. There's a lot of cracks and holes to be filled, coating the entire inside, outside, and adding another access point, some vent improvements. So it's a pretty comprehensive list of maintenance items that need to be done to, again, extend the life of that asset.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Thorstensen, second by trustee Balmas. Roll call, please, Andy.
Garner.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood. Yes. Thorstensen.
Yes.
Ross.
Aye.
5 aye.
All right, motion carries. Item number 4, approval of Public Works Department request to purchase 2 Peterbilt 348 single-axle chassis from the low bidder JX Peterbilt of Wadsworth, Illinois, at a cost of $202,771.92. This would be Public Works Department Units 262 and 266.
Sure. So as we do, as soon as the budget's approved, we try to get our equipment, big equipment purchases ordered. The plows take a long time to build. We try to get them ordered right away so they're here before the snow flies. So these 2 units are replacing a couple of units. One is from 2000, the other one's from 1999. These are the 2 units, if you remember, we bought from the township used and have been using them, so they've held up good, but I'm 20 years old. They're about done for. Looking to standardize the fleet as we've done in the past with the Peterbilt units. There's not a state bid for these, so we go through a joint purchasing program. JBX Peterbilt has the bid for these. So again, want to get them ordered early. Similar units as to what we've ordered in the past, which have held up good and worked out nice for the department.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Thorstensen, second by trustee Ross. Roll call, please. Andy?
Garner.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood. Yes. Thorstensen.
Yes.
Ross.
Aye.
5 aye.
Motion carries. I'd say we got our money's worth out of these 2.
Yeah.
All right, item number 5, approval of request from Public Works Department to waive bidding requirements and purchase central hydraulic system, hook lift system, dump body, snow plow, wing plow, tailgate spreader, and spreader control system from Bonnell Industries at a cost not to exceed $253,470. This is the equipment needed on the new snowplows, Public Works Units 262 and 266.
Sure. So you approve the chassis. Those come bare. We obviously need to outfit them. As the mayor just read, this is the outfitting for both trucks, the hydraulics, the plows, the V-bodies, the hook lift system, et cetera. We've been using Bonnell Industries out of Dixon for that equipment since we went to the hook lifts. They've worked out great. We've been able to reduce the size of the fleet due to the versatility of these vehicles. Been using Bonnell since 2011. The trucks that we had them upfit the first time around are still in great shape, holding up well, and meeting all the department's needs. So we're looking to continue. And again, same with the chassis, to standardize the fleet. We have a working relationship with Bonnell, and we know the quality of the equipment we're getting. And when we need assistance from them, being that we've been a customer now for the last 8 years, they're very responsive to our needs, so we want to continue with that relationship.
Questions from the trustees?
I have a question.
Trustee Garner?
What are we doing with the old equipment?
So those two are going to auction. So we'll be bringing a resolution forward at a future board meeting with whatever squads or community development of vehicles that'll be going away, as well as the plows. So and we've sent them to the auction. We also have used some online bidding with some success. So again, we'll be bringing that forward to you to dispose of those units.
Trustee Balmas?
Just following up on that, can any of that, like the snow plows and that are on the trucks be transferred, or that they've usually are as worn as the trucks are themselves?
Yeah, I mean, these two trucks will go away, and the next two that are oldest in the fleet will step down and one will be in a reserve role, the other one will still be on the street. But the complete units, I mean, we get rid of the whole thing, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion by trustee Ross, second by trustee Garner. Roll call, please, Andy.
Garner.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood.
Yes.
Thorstenson.
Yes.
Ross.
Aye.
5 aye.
All right, motion carries. Item number 6, approval of police department request to purchase 4 2019 Chevrolet Tahoe state bid contract vehicles at a cost of $154,192,000.
Sure. So these are the police squads, looking for 4 Chevy Tahoes. We've been utilizing the Tahoes for a while now. They held up great. When the police department is done with them, there's actually some vehicle left that can be passed down to David for community development. So the 4 that we're going to be replacing, if they're in better shape than some of the stuff David has, we'll pass them on to David's fleet and then take those vehicles and circulate them out. We had a total of $212,000 in the budget for police patrol vehicles. So you've got the 155 for the units. The remainder will be used to outfit them with all the radios, computers, cages, equipment, et cetera. So again, these are state bid vehicles. Got to get the orders in early to make sure that you receive vehicles.
Questions from the trustees?
I have a question.
Trustee Garner?
And what is the mileage on the vehicles that we're passing down?
You know off the top of your head, Brian?
I don't know the exact mileage, but I believe all 4 of them are over 100,000.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by trustee Balmas, second by trustee Garner. Roll call, please. Andy?
Garner.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood. Yes. Thorstenson.
Yes.
Ross.
Aye.
5 aye.
All right. Motion carries. Item number 7, approval of request from fire department to waive bidding requirements and utilize HGAC by ambulance contract number AM10-16 to purchase a road rescue ambulance, including Stryker Power Load Patient Lift System from Fire Service, Inc., at a cost of $253,007.
Sure. So as you know, we have 5 ambulances in the fleet. The useful life is about 10 years, so therefore we try to replace an ambulance every 2 years. This is included in the budget using the same company that we've used for all the ambulances, the ladder truck, the last 5 fire engines. The equipment's held up well. We've also included the Stryker Power Load Patient Lift System that helps get the stretcher in the ambulance and take that load off of our firefighters to help reduce injuries. That was something we added 7, 8 years ago, and those have worked out great. The contract number is actually, just for the record, AM18XA11, so we had that wrong on the agenda. That was my mistake. But again, included in the budget, want to get the order in. Takes a long time to build these. The fire engine that we approved last April is still under construction right now, so it's, this equipment takes a long time to build, so we want to get the orders in early. So, the long lead time.
Guys, like building a rocket ship or something. All right, questions from the trustees?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Thorstensen, second by trustee Balmas. Roll call, please, Andy.
Garner.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood.
Yes.
Thorstensen.
Yes.
Ross.
Aye.
5 aye.
Motion carries. Well, that ambulance took a beating, 104,000 miles, 6,500 hours. Wow. All right. Item number 8, approval of request from Fire Department to waive bidding requirements and purchase Power Pro XT stretcher and Stair Pro stair chair from Stryker at a cost of $27,588.81.
Sure, so we approve the ambulance and the patient load system, but you need a stretcher to go with it. So Stryker is who we use for all of our stretchers, and then the Stair Pro stair chair is a piece of equipment to help the firefighters get patients downstairs to, again, try to reduce injuries. It's been a useful piece of equipment, and we have seen a reduction in shoulder and backs. I mean, if there's a shoulder or back injury, I mean, that's an easy $100,000, so the $28,000 seems like a lot for these two pieces of equipment, but for the amount of use we get out of them and the number of years and the risk reduction that it creates for us, it's totally worth it.
When you say greatly decreased, have we decreased workman's comp claim on back and shoulder by 50%?
Yeah, 50% is probably a stretch.
Been reduced.
For sure.
Probably 90%, if not higher. Shoulder injuries, we're still seeing probably a 30% reduction at this
Right,
point.
but
We're seeing the majority of those in firefighting now, not on the EMS side. So,
But still, for $30,000, when considering what a workman's claim
one back
costs.
injuries,
Yeah.
4 to 5 times that amount. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then, I mean, obviously, when that employee's out for 6 or 9 months, you got to backfill that with overtime, and that puts stress on those employees, so it's just a snowball effect.
Yeah, it's a good return on investment. Questions from the trustee? Okay.
Move to approve.
Motion by trustee Ross, second by trustee Garner. Roll call, please, Andy.
Garner.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood.
Yes.
Thorstensen.
Yes.
Ross.
Aye.
5 aye.
All right, motion carries. It's a good thing we passed that budget tonight, or we wouldn't have had anything on the agenda. All right. It's the end of our new business, so I'll open the floor to public comment. If you'd like to address the board, remind you to please state your name for the record, and it's not a discussion or a dialogue. Good evening, Lenny.
I have an issue. My name is Leonard Petrovic, 3712 Grove Avenue on the east side. I have a traffic issue in my neighborhood. On the corner by me, the people's driveway exit on Belle Plaine. My street is Grove. There's a stop sign on Grove when it crosses Belle Plaine. When the people are parking their cars on their driveway that exits on and enters on Belle Plaine, I can look to my right, I can see a quarter of a mile. I look to my left, I can see 100 feet. And over the years, I've almost gotten hit broadside a couple of times. You can't see more than 100 feet down the road. I've called the police department, I've had officers check it out. And a couple of months ago, I stopped at the police station, talked to an officer, I explained the situation. He suggested it was not a traffic problem, it was code enforcement. So I talked to Dave. I came and saw Dave. Dave agreed, we have a problem. And, but he said there's far as he knows, there's nothing they can do. But are they allowed to restrict line of sight down a road? I mean, it's dangerous. Just Saturday afternoon, I almost got T-boned again, and this morning, I almost got hit again. And someday, I'm going to get hit, hurt badly, or worse, or somebody else will, and something's got to be done.
Is it on-street
I
parking?
mentioned this to my kids. My kid says, Dad, take a picture of the issue, and then go to the village board, put it on public record that you brought it to the attention of the village. If something happens, I don't know who would be responsible. Would it be the homeowner? Would it be the village? Or nobody? But it can be dangerous. Would you suggest pulling out in front of a car 100 feet away? I mean, I don't think I'd pass a driver's test if I did that.
No, let us look at it, Lenny. We'll see if we can be creative.
But it's on the corner of Grove and Belle Plaine.
Okay.
So I hope something can be done before somebody gets hurt. Maybe me.
I don't want you to get hurt.
Okay. Thank you all for listening.
Brian Horth, I live at 4981 South Road. I want to make a few important comments about ethylene oxide tonight. First, I'd like to thank you for filling out the witness slips for the current state Senate bills and for the letter sent to the EPA on March 1st. We truly appreciate your support in this effort. Stop ETO in Lake County and Stop Sterigenics recently sent representatives to Washington, D.C. to testify in front of an EPA panel. We were in Washington because the EPA is attempting to throw out the IRIS report on ethylene oxide. While we work hard to protect our family here, the American Chemistry Council works in Washington to deny us the ability to protect our family. They have money and power, and they are relentless in their assault on science. They delayed the IRIS report for decades. They delayed EPA action on ethylene oxide so long that a judge ordered the EPA to do something. After that, they delayed for yet another decade. Once the report was released, they continued their assault on the science. This is what they do. They seek to spread doubt about the science. The game has been played for so many years, from tobacco to asbestos to climate change. While we have families to care for and lives outside ethylene oxide, we cannot afford to grow tired because the American Chemistry Council does not grow tired. This is their job, defending the use of deadly pollutants. They have virtually unlimited resources to continue this battle as long as needed to get their way. And if they lose a fight, they simply start another. This is what they have been doing for decades. And now they have control of the EPA, at least for another year or so. They are making their big power play right now to throw out the science and get their way again. But we will not go away because we cannot go away. So we went to Washington to deliver the message that we will not be going away. We see what they are doing, and we will not sit quietly while they sell the health of our family for profit. In Willowbrook, the latest monitoring data shows definitively that elevated levels of ethylene oxide are due to emissions from Sterigenics. These data put to rest once and for all the bogus contention that elevated levels are due to vehicle exhaust and other sources. I have always known this to be false, but these data emphatically demonstrate this truth. The first data from testing after the Sterigenics facility closed demonstrated minimum drops of 50% in the amount of ethylene oxide observed, and in monitors closest to the facility, the decrease was 90%. The next thing I want to mention is the release of the cancer study in the Willowbrook area by the Illinois Department of Public Health. The study found elevated levels of cancer in the areas around the Sterigenics facility, with those closest to the facility having the highest levels of cancer. The health risks from ethylene oxide are not theoretical, they are real. For more information on both the monitoring data and the cancer study in Willowbrook, I urge you to read the latest articles by Michael Hawthorne in the Chicago Tribune. The most important thing I want to say tonight is that in many ways it appears we are all alone. The air monitoring organized by Lake County is absolutely vital to obtaining any information about our risk because the U.S. EPA, the Illinois EPA, and the Illinois Department of Public Health have abandoned Lake County. I have come to the conclusion they have abandoned Lake County not because they think our air is safe, but because they fear our air is not safe, and because they are afraid of triggering the same process that occurred in Willowbrook. They are afraid if they conduct air monitoring here, they will find elevated levels of ethylene oxide in the air, and they are afraid this will put political pressure on them to take action as they have in Willowbrook. Why would they be afraid to do the same thing here they've done in Willowbrook? Why would they be willing to protect the public health in Willowbrook but not Lake County? If you read the FDA's public statements, there have been no disruptions in the supply of hospital equipment. The system can accommodate the loss of one sterilization facility. But the FDA warns the loss of another facility in this area would likely result in the disruption of medical supplies. In fact, it is likely there are not currently disruptions in medical supplies because many of Sterigenics customers have been able to move their sterilization to the facility in Lake County. It is possible the Lake County facility is profiting from the current situation and that more ethylene oxide is being emitted in Lake County as a result of its removal from DuPage County. More than 20 manufacturers already utilized Medline's facility in Waukegan for ethylene oxide sterilization. I have little doubt their customer list has increased as a result of the Sterigenics shutdown. It appears the industry's efforts to slow or prevent the adoption of alternative sterilization technologies has paid off. The government agencies that are supposed to protect us are instead paralyzed with fear over the loss of sterilization capacity. So even though the obvious responsible thing to do is initiate testing in Lake County to assess our risk of harm, both the state and federal governments are refusing to do so. Nor is there interest in conducting a cancer study at the state level. None of these agencies are willing to take the most basic and minimal step to protect our health. Their function is to protect the public health, and the first step in protecting public health is to assess the risk. Yet they will not take that first step. This is negligence, and this is an injustice. It is clear that village and county leaders must step in and fill the void left by the state and federal agencies, who are either too captured by industry or too afraid to take action. There are many bills still pending at the state legislative level, and more still to be introduced. We must continue to ensure those bills move forward, and inadequacies in those bills are addressed. We deserve the same response in Lake County that DuPage County received from state and federal leaders. The implication that some citizens are more worthy of protection than others is not lost on the residents in this village or those around us. We will continue to demand action from all our leaders. We will be holding a public awareness rally this Saturday at 1:30 p.m. at the corner of Grand Avenue and Hunt Club Road. We encourage anyone who cares about this environmental injustice to join us to help raise awareness in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tracy Adams, and I'm actually a resident of Waukegan, and I'm here at the Gurnee City Council tonight to speak on behalf of a couple agencies involved in the performing arts in Lake County and on whose boards I sit on. One is the Lake County Community Concert Association, and the other is the Three Brothers Theater in downtown Waukegan. The Lake County Community Concerts Association is a not-for-profit agency that has been serving Lake County for 65 years, and their mission is to bring world-class performances to the residents of Lake County. All of their performances are held at the Orland Trapp Auditorium at the Waukegan High School Brookside campus. If you are not familiar with the Orland Trapp Auditorium, it is the largest auditorium in Lake County, and they did just recently have all of their seats remodeled, so now it's really quite spectacular. I have only been involved with the Lake County Concerts Association for the last 2 years, and I photograph all their concerts. And when they say their mission is to bring premier talent to Lake County, they completely succeed in that mission. They bring classical performances, dancing, music and dancing. I would encourage any of you to attend a show. They run on memberships. So their season is a 6-concert season, and their membership is only $80. We are winding down on the 2018-2019 season. There are 2 performances left. One is this Saturday, April 6th. It's the Avalon String Quartet. And I have tickets for all of you for that show. And if you have a conflict, I would love it if you cannot make the show, that you would pass along the tickets that somebody else maybe could use. The other agency I would like to talk about is the Three Brothers Theater in downtown Waukegan. They are working towards their 7th year in Waukegan, and they have 2 theaters. One is right next to the Genesee, and one is just 1 block south of the Genesee. The Three Brothers Theater has an ensemble where there's a group of people that are always in performances, and they draw talent from the city of Chicago, Kenosha, Racine, Milwaukee, and they have a new playwrights residency program. So they have these playwrights from all over Lake and Cook County and Wisconsin. They will all be writing a play, and they will all be able to have the opportunity to have one of the plays produced. There is also a Gurnee resident. Her name's Madeline Sergel. She is a local playwright, and she is participating in this playwright residency, so she will have the opportunity to have her play put on stage. The Three Brothers Theater is just a great example of a local couple who have opened its theater. They draw a lot of talent each year. Their productions and the pool of actors just gets broader and broader and more incredible. So tonight I've also brought to you a set of tickets for any Three Brothers show in the 2019 season. When I hand you your set of tickets, you will get the spring season, what am I looking for? The spring season itinerary of the shows that are coming up for the spring season, but they also have a fall season. Three Brothers puts on a ton of shows. So I encourage you to look at the information that I give you, and then also either go online to threebrotherstheater.com, or you can, if you're a Facebooker, you can just look up Three Brothers Theater on Facebook, in addition to the Lake County Concerts Association. Thank you very much. I'm going to come up and pass you your tickets.
Thank you, Tracy.
May I say something?
Trustee Ross?
And also, Three Brothers did a combined dinner theater at the Shanty a week or so ago, and that was very successful, sold out.
All right, any other public comment?
Thank you very much.
All right, if the trustees want any, we've been trying to share all the reports, but some of what candidate Horace said is opinion on his part or interpretation. So if someone would like to read the full reports, if we forgot to pass one to you, just let us know. You can read the whole thing in context and get it in the right perspective. And I'd like to say good luck to all the candidates tomorrow. Big day. And we'll see who will be congratulating tomorrow night. So I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by trustee Ballmer, second by trustee Garner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.